Linda had a condition that's called lumbar spinal stenosis, which basically means narrowing of her spinal canal. And this had developed because of a degenerative condition in her joints and disc at the L4, L5 level.
What led to the injury was just my work, my job. A lot of lifting improperly over the years.
That degeneration led to what's called a spondylolisthesis, or sliding of one vertebral body on another. So in layman's terms, it means that her bones were no longer in alignment. And if you think about it as your spinal canal being a tube, when you have two tubes that are in alignment, you have space in the tube. When those two tubes are no longer in alignment, that circle starts to become smaller and smaller and starts pinching the nerves, and that's what was happening in Linda's case.
I tried numerous times to find surgeons, and I was denied, and finally was sent to Dr. Carson, then sent to Palmdale. Dr. Carson had recommended the minimally invasive. I had already had one laminectomy back there, and that was just a regular incision. So I was wondering if it would be going into that same incision, and he said no, we were going to do the minimally invasive, one on each side, and we won't be going towards that at all. And the recovery was quicker, and all of it seemed better than the original.
I felt that a spinal fusion was necessary because of the slipping of her bones. A laminectomy, or a decompression of the nerves without a fusion, would have helped her in terms of her leg pain, but she also had significant back pain from this slipping. And I felt that it was necessary to stabilize her spine with a spinal fusion. I opted for a transforaminal lumbar interbody fusion for her and a minimally invasive approach to give her the fastest healing process with the least tissue damage. And I felt that would suit her best.
The healing time for the surgery afterwards was pretty quick. It was not very painful. I do have, I think, a higher tolerance for pain, but like with any surgery, it's going to be painful. There's no way about it. Your body's being cut into. But the after effects of it just was not that bad. You know, you do have to be careful how you roll over in bed and how you treat it, but they do want you up and walking around. So I made sure to do that. The worst thing you can do is lay in bed for too long. So I made sure to get up and walk around and keep myself moving so that the body could heal faster.
Rarely is anybody not a candidate for minimally invasive surgery. The rare instances where minimally invasive may not be an option might be a revision surgery, where if they've had a surgery with somebody else that has failed and they need a revision, it might not be able to be achieved minimally invasively, although that's not always the case.
Post-surgery, the amount of pain that lessens, the amount of movement that you can get again, it's priceless. It really is.
She had pain from the nerves that were coming out of her spine in the form of sciatica, as people typically talk about it, and that's pain shooting down her legs. She also had significant back pain with standing, walking, most activities, and that's from the bone on bone grinding, where her disc was very collapsed down, and also from the joints in her back that were severely arthritic and overgrown. So every time she's moving her back, those joints are moving against each other, causing the back pain.
What a blessing it has been to have this surgery, because it gave me a new lease on life. It really did.
The benefits behind minimally invasive spine surgery: less chance of infection, less bleeding, less damage to tissue, faster recoveries, less hospital stay. And why is that? Well, really it comes down to tissue damage, and with minimally invasive surgery, our incisions are smaller, less of an opening, less damage to tissue, both on the skin and underneath the skin. And when there's less damage to tissue, you have less of a chance of infection, you have less bleeding, because we're not cutting through a bunch of tissue. We're spreading tissues out of the way to get to the point where we need to perform the surgery. So the goal of minimally invasive spine surgery is to bypass the tissues that are healthy and get to the root of the problem so that we can treat that precisely and not cause damage to the other tissues on the way there. As far as permanent damage, that's a question I get very often. And when you start to experience weakness in your legs or arms, for that matter, depending on the location of your problem, that's when we start to have to really worry about permanent damage to the nerve. Pain and numbness are very common, and those can be sometimes treated non-surgically if we get to them early enough. If we've gotten to the point where we're starting to lose muscle or become weak, then we're really concerned about permanent nerve injury at that point.
So at Palmdale Hospital, it was fabulous. The nurses, to me, were wonderful. They were extremely caring. Were there whenever I needed anything. All I had to do was ring the bell, and they were there. All of them were friendly. Every single one of them was wonderful. For me, they are what made it. They are the nurses, the staff. They. What made my 2 days enjoyable for having what I just went through.
Palmdale Regional's been really great and supportive about bringing minimally invasive spine surgery to the hospital. It's a very nice facility, very new, and we've been doing them there for over a year now. I feel very safe performing surgeries there and bringing my patients to the hospital. I've done a number of cases there since COVID-19 began. There's strict protocols in place in terms of segregation of patients who are COVID-19 positive away from the general population within the hospital. The OR staff themselves, they've taken many measures, including multiple layers of PPE for all of the employees to wear to protect themselves and the patients. So whenever I get the question from patients that is it safe, I feel confident that they'll be safe and not contract COVID-19 at the hospital, having a surgery done that they really need to have done.
Thank God for Dr. Carson. Thank God for that, because I don't want to know what my life would have been like if I hadn't had the surgery.
The main thing that Linda expressed to me was that she feels like she has quality of life back. But when she came to see me, she wasn't able to participate with her grandkids. She had been a dancer for many years, was not able to do that anymore. And she just felt really low. Within a month or two after surgery, she really started to notice the difference. Actually, when I saw her in the hospital a day after surgery, she told me, look, I can point my toe straight again. I haven't been able to do this in years. And she had been a dancer for many years, so that was important to her.
Yes, I would recommend Dr. Carson, and I would recommend Palmdale Regional, big time.